The rain had been relentless that night, drumming against the slate roofs of Kensington Palace as if the heavens themselves were anxious to witness what was about to unfold. Inside, the corridors were unusually quiet, the servants' footsteps muffled against the thick carpets. Camila moved through the dimly lit hall with a practiced grace, her heels clicking softly, a heartbeat of authority and anxiety blended into one. She had sensed it coming, the tension in the air, a charge that made even the polished marble floors seem to hum beneath her feet. Her chamber awaited, the oak cabinet at the far corner, dark and imposing, guarding secrets she had carried for decades. She paused before it, tracing her fingers along the intricate carvings, the chill of the wood pressing a familiar weight against her palm. Those letters and photographs weren't just paper and ink, they were power, a silent leverage that could shape the story of Diana forever, and in her mind, protect the family from chaos. But even as she steadied her breath, there was an unease she couldn't shake. For years, she had walked these halls under the veil of decorum and secrecy, always careful, always measured. Yet tonight felt different, like the walls themselves were whispering warnings she could not ignore. Somewhere, someone knew. She couldn't place the thought fully, only that a shadow of inevitability loomed over her. Meanwhile, across the palace, William had returned from his routine evening walk, the damp night air still clinging to his navy coat. His thoughts were heavy, circling around the news he had just received. Diana's relics, hidden in plain sight for 30 years, and the unsettling confirmation that Camilla had handled them. A mix of anger, sorrow, and disbelief surged through him. He thought of his mother, the warmth of her embrace, the laughter, and the tragic void left by her absence. Those letters weren't just memories, they were pieces of her spirit, a testament to her voice that refused to be silenced even decades later. He strode through the halls with a resolve that brooked no interference, summoning herald with a command that left no room for argument. Every step echoed, a drumbeat of impending confrontation. Herald arrived almost instantly, eyes sharp, understanding the gravity without needing words. William handed him the folder, a bundle of letters and photographs, each one a relic of history, each one a trigger of emotions long buried. In the room, Camilla's poised exterior began to fracture the moment she sensed the storm approaching. She had anticipated scrutiny, questions, but not this direct, unrelenting pursuit. Her hand hovered near the cabinet, almost unconsciously, as though it were a shield. She rehearsed explanations in her mind, defenses crafted to seem both rational and empathetic. But the truth, stubborn and undeniable, had a way of breaking through even the most careful constructions. As William entered her chamber, the space seemed to shrink around them. Light from the chandelier fractured across the polished floor, casting reflections that danced like specters between them. His eyes, familiar to everyone who knew him as the heir, now carried the weight of unyielding determination, the intensity of a son defending his mother's legacy. Camilla met his gaze, regal as ever, yet shadowed by a flicker of panic that betrayed her practiced calm. The letters were laid bare, blue ink flowing across pages with elegant precision, words that once offered comfort now acting as weapons in the silent battle for truth. Camilla's lips pressed together, her mind racing through years of manipulation, of careful positioning, of control she believed necessary. William's voice, low and unwavering, cut through the room like a blade. Questions that demanded answers, not excuses, hung in the air. The room was alive with the tension of unspoken accusations, the weight of history pressing down like the very architecture of the palace itself. Outside, the rain softened but never ceased, mist curling around the palace like a shroud, echoing the unease within. Each drop against the window was a reminder. Secrets, no matter how deeply buried, have a way of clawing their way to the surface, and tonight every truth would demand its reckoning. Camilla's fingers brushed the cabinet again, her composure trembling imperceptibly. William's gaze never wavered, and for a moment, time seemed suspended. The palace, with all its grandeur, became a silent witness to a battle not for crowns or titles, but for memory, legacy, and the voice of a woman who refused to be forgotten. Camilla retreated to her private sitting room, the heavy curtains drawn against the chill of the night, her mind spinning with strategies and justifications. She had survived court intrigues, public scrutiny, and whispers that could topple lesser queens, but this This felt personal. William wasn't just a son. He was the living embodiment of Diana's legacy, her fire incarnate, and now he held the evidence that could unravel everything she had meticulously safeguarded. She poured herself a glass of red wine, the liquid shaking slightly in her hands, but no warmth followed. The taste was bitter, like the realization that power alone could not shield her from the past. In the palace's dimly lit hallways, William moved with precise intent. Each step was measured, yet filled with a weight that pressed down on the very air around him. He had already summoned a team of experts, historians, forensic analysts, and archivists to assess every item Camila had touched. Handwriting analysis, ink dating, and fingerprint verification would leave no room for doubt. But even as he prepared for the official investigation, his mind kept returning to the letters, the photographs, and the notebook. Diana's voice echoed through the corridors of his memory, urging him to protect her story. Harold followed close behind, his expression unreadable but attentive. He had served the royal family for decades, navigating scandals and secrets that the public would never know. Tonight, even he felt the gravity of the situation. The palace's walls seemed to hum with tension, each ornate panel and gilt frame a witness to a history steeped in power struggles and personal betrayals. William laid out the relics on a polished table, the letters stacked neatly, photographs splayed as if inviting scrutiny, and the leather-bound notebook opened to reveal the delicate loops of Diana's handwriting. Camilla, observing from the shadowed doorway, watched him handle each piece with reverence and precision. She realized that his intent was not vengeance alone, it was the pursuit of truth. Her own plans, long held in the shadows, were now exposed to the piercing light of scrutiny. The realization hit her with a clarity that was almost painful. She could no longer control the narrative. Her influence, the subtle manipulations she had relied on for decades, were no match for William's determination and the authenticity of Diana's words. Meanwhile, William reached for a letter addressed directly to him, its edges slightly frayed from decades of careful storage. The message was intimate, a mother's guidance distilled into flowing script. His fingers lingered over the ink, tracing the curves of each letter, feeling the pulse of the woman who had shaped so much of his life. He could almost hear her voice, calm yet firm, reminding him of resilience, compassion, and the importance of standing for what is right. The weight of responsibility settled on him. This wasn't just about exposing deception, it was about safeguarding a legacy, ensuring that Diana's voice remained untarnished and respected. In the quiet corners of the palace, the staff whispered, speculation mixing with fear. Rumors of confrontation spread like wildfire, and loyalty lines were drawn silently, invisibly, through the corridors. Camilla knew she had to act, but every plan she formulated was countered by the certainty radiating from William's resolve. Each minute spent strategizing felt like a losing battle against time and truth. William's team worked meticulously, cross-referencing dates, handwriting samples, and fingerprints. Each confirmation strengthened his position, but also deepened the chasm between him and Camilla. He knew confrontation was inevitable, but the evidence had to be irrefutable. Camilla paced her room, wine glass abandoned on the mahogany side table, plotting her defense while simultaneously acknowledging the undeniable fact. Her secret, once buried, was now a beacon of exposure. Outside, the night deepened, and Kensington Palace settled into a tense stillness. The storm had passed, but the atmosphere remained charged, electric with the promise of revelation. Camila and William, each armed with history, intent, and conviction, were poised at the brink of a battle that would test not just their will, but the fragile threads of family, loyalty, and legacy. In the silent halls, the palace seemed to lean closer, listening as two forces, determination and concealment, prepared to collide. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the tall windows of Kensington Palace, scattering across the polished marble floors. Camila sat in her drawing room, still cloaked in a shadow of unease. She knew the meeting with William would come, the reckoning that had been simmering beneath the surface for decades. Her fingers brushed the edge of a chair, tracing its curves almost absent-mindedly, yet every line reminded her of the meticulous order she had maintained for years. The room, usually a sanctuary of elegance, now felt like a trap. William arrived, his presence unannounced yet commanding. The quiet authority in his stride carried the weight of his mother's legacy and the unrelenting fire of someone determined to protect it. Camila rose, straightening her posture. The faint tremor in her hands betrayed only to the keenest observer. Her voice, calm yet strained, broke the silence. "William," she began, each syllable measured, "you have the evidence. What more do you seek?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he set the letters and photographs on the table between them, aligning them with precision, the blue ink of Diana's handwriting catching the morning light. His eyes, intense and unwavering, locked onto hers. "I seek understanding," he said finally, voice steady but heavy with emotion. "Understanding why you thought it right to hide her voice for 30 years. Camila's lips pressed together and she took a deep breath. "I did it to protect the family, to shield you and Harry from a past that could hurt more than it heals," she replied, the words flowing carefully yet carrying the weight of sincere conviction. "The letters, the photographs, they are fragments of a woman we all loved, but also of a pain too raw for immediate exposure." William studied her face, searching for cracks, for any sign of deception. There was fear there, yes, but also a calculated restraint, a mixture of guilt and defense interwoven with decades of learned diplomacy. He unfolded a photograph, Diana laughing with William and Harry in a sunlit garden, the children unaware of the shadows encroaching upon their lives. "Protecting us?" he asked, voice quieter now, tinged with disbelief, or controlling the narrative. The room seemed to still, the air heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. Camilla's fingers brushed the edge of the table, eyes narrowing slightly. "Control is a harsh word," she said. "Call it what you will. I acted with intent to preserve peace, to ensure her memory wasn't manipulated by forces outside this home." William's jaw tightened, the letters now almost secondary to the confrontation unfolding in the room. He could feel the pull of history in each photograph, the echo of Deanna's presence in each line of ink. Yet he had to act not just as a son, but as a guardian of truth. "Her memory isn't yours to guard alone," he said, voice firm. "It belongs to us, to the world who loved her, and most importantly, to her." Camilla exhaled slowly, a subtle surrender in her posture. Her defenses, long built to weather criticism and scrutiny, began to erode under the intensity of William's conviction. "Then what do you intend?" she asked, her voice quieter now, almost fragile. William reached for the letters and photographs, handling them with reverence. "They stay protected, as they should have been," he replied, eyes softening, "but no longer hidden. The truth cannot be locked away, it must be preserved and honored." For a long moment, the two stood in the room, the distance between them charged yet shifting. The palace, an enduring witness to centuries of secrets, seemed to exhale as if acknowledging the end of a long concealment. Camilla's gaze drifted to the window, watching the morning light spill over the gardens, a reminder that the world outside continued, indifferent yet persistent. William placed a hand gently on a photograph, a silent promise to his mother and to history. Camilla, seated now, folded her hands in her lap, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. The confrontation had not destroyed her, but it had transformed her role in the story. The relics, once tools of control, were now instruments of remembrance. In the quiet aftermath, the palace returned to its rhythm, though something had irrevocably shifted. The letters, the photographs, and the hidden notebook were safe, their significance recognized and honored. William, guardian of his mother's memory, and Camilla, reconciled with the boundaries of her influence, understood that power and legacy were not about possession. They were about respect, preservation, and truth. Kensington Palace, bathed in the soft morning light, stood as a testament to resilience, revelation, and the enduring presence of a voice that refused to be silenced. And in that stillness, a new chapter began, one where history, memory, and family would continue to intertwine, inseparable yet guided by clarity and respect.